put the uniform back on. I think that's the only thing that really, this new job is fantastic, but I do miss wearing my uniform. I'm so proud of that. Did it for 34 years, and it meant so much to me each and every day that I got dressed and put my uniform on, put my gun belt on, and walked out the door. It's an amazing agency. I came over, they merged all 3 police departments in 1995. I started out as a transit cop in '83. And then just to put everybody together and under Commissioner Bratton, who's here today. You know what, I think Commissioner Bratton needs a round of applause for everything he's done for this great city. This is kind of an old joke, I've said it before, but I spent over 2.5 years working with the Commissioner leading up to this position here, and he told me just about everything that you do as police commissioner, but he didn't tell me everything, so. I think he wanted me to take the job. Before I start on my remarks, nothing that we do in the police department we do by ourselves, and there's certainly nothing I do that I do by myself. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize my executive staff, so if they could please stand up, and we'll give you a round of applause. Come on. No, there's not enough hours in the day or days in the week. It feels like that way sometimes, but I know each and every one of those people that stood up, the commitment they have to this department, and more importantly, the commitment that they have to the city is tremendous. And just about everyone of them has about the same time as me, so you do the math there. That's 500, 600, 700 years worth of policing that just stood up there. And there's no wonder why New York City's in the shape that it is in. And I thank my executive staff for what you do. It's not easy. It's with great difficulty at times, but you know, the breadth of experience is just tremendous, and it really helps me in my everyday, making sure that we move this organization forward. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here at 8 o'clock in the morning. Nothing better than an early breakfast. I'd like to thank Grace Hightower De Niro for narrating that video. You did a fantastic job. It was great. And thank you, Dale. Thanks for the introduction and for everything that you do, including putting this morning's breakfast together, which you and Andy Tisch made possible. The Police Foundation relies on you just as it depends heavily on the leadership of its president, Susan Birnbaum, who there's something going on in this 24 hours. I've had every meal with Susan so far. Lunch yesterday, dinner yesterday, and breakfast this morning. People are going to start talking. And it's Executive Director Greg Roberts. Thank you for what you do every day. It makes a difference to the men and women of this great police department. Thank you, and thanks for the foundation staff as well. They have a difficult job. Thanks to the foundation's Board of Trustees and to all the generous foundation supporters here today. Thank you for everything you do for the men and women of this great police department. You are trusted advisors and absolute allies to the men and women of the New York City Police Department. And it's those dedicated people, those who swore an oath, as I did a long time ago, and put on a uniform every day, along with NYPD civilians, that I want to make special mention of. They're the reason why we're here today. And what do I mean by that? When I first became a cop back in 1983, things were a little bit different in New York City. And as I look around the room, I see a lot of people who were here back then, and you know what I'm talking about. As a transit cop, I rode the subways. I think that's not me there, but that's a pretty nice mustache. I think mine was better, though. But I'm sure you know what it was like back then. Graffiti all over the subway cars, and many people worried if they'd be able to commute to and from to their jobs. Up on the streets, crime was commonplace. Robberies, abandoned vehicles, shootings were through the roof. I think, as I've mentioned, and I know Commissioner Bratton has mentioned numerous times, murders hovered around 2,000 a year. The revolutionary path that led us to where we are today, 34 years later, none of this happened by accident. It happened as a result of the hard work of the men and women in this room, our law enforcement partners, and the people of this great city. And none of it happens by accident. Policing is a vocation, absolutely, but it must change with the times. We have to constantly innovate and evolve. Otherwise, we're standing still and we can't help this great city. And that's how you at the Foundation have been helping us, by investing in innovation to keep us on the cutting edge of policing, and we are. As a result, we have a unique opportunity right now to set the tone for the rest of the country. Over the past 3 years, we've been implementing a number of far-reaching changes in the way our department operates. We are dramatically improving our ability to fight crime on the patrol side, on the investigative side, and importantly, at the most local levels. And as these changes take hold, we continue to make gains in every crime category all across the city. I want to speak to you today about those changes we're putting in place. And many people are skeptical that these kinds of internal reforms are possible in a big bureaucracy like the NYPD. And they also doubt that change of any kind can have much impact on crime. And I know Commissioner Bratton and I strongly disagree with that. So they tend to minimize it and treat it as some sort of minor program or a rehash of an old initiative attempted by a prior generation. This is nothing of the kind. Neighborhood policing, which we've been building for 2.5 years now, is a massive undertaking and a deep-seated change. We aren't tinkering with patrol or making just a few changes around the edges. Let me be clear. We are reworking the entire way the NYPD protects New York City. And we're redefining the role of an NYPD police officer. We're conducting a complete overhaul of a system that has been in place since the advent of the radio car in the 40s and the 911 system in the 1970s. And if there's any parallel, it's probably the development of CompStat in the mid-1990s, more than 2 decades ago. Like our neighborhood policing model, CompStat was a sea change in the way the NYPD did business. We began tracking crime closely, not year to year, not every 3 months, but week to week and day to day. We knew when and where the crimes were occurring, almost in real time, and we still do. We established a forum, weekly CompStat crime strategy sessions, in which the leaders of the department and commanders of local precincts and members of narcotics, gang, and other specialty units could consult, plan, and work together to counter emerging crime problems. And the reason why I'm laughing is that this description of CompStat, I don't know if the precinct commanders that are up there at the podium actually agree with that definition. It's a bit of a daunting experience. I know I did it. I was lucky enough to be a precinct commander in Central Park, the 2-5 and the 4-4. And the first time you get up there, if you haven't seen it, if you haven't heard about it, there's a podium in the middle of the room, and you're surrounded by some of your compadres, people from narco gang, the detective bureau. Then you have a table full of executives, probably, I don't know, about 60 feet away, and there's another 200 people in the room. And you get to, in front of everybody, in front of all your peers, you get to explain why crime is up in your precinct and what you're doing about it. I remember the first time when I went up there in the park a couple of times. I don't know if that really counted. But when I was in the 2-5, the first time I was up, and violence was up, you know, shootings were up. We had a big problem at 1990 Lexington Avenue. And I am not lying. I'm not sure if I remembered my name the first time they asked me a question. But it's a great way to build leadership. It's a great way for the future leaders of this department to shine, and they do. The 77 precinct commanders, the district commanders, and the PSA commanders we have are some of our finest people, so I applaud them for what they do and the time that they put in and the time away from their families. So we just had an executive conference out in the new academy the other day. It's a 900-seat auditorium. It's an absolutely fantastic facility, and we're able to speak to them all at once, and I thank them for everything that they do, and I just reminded them that they have to take care of their families, and most of all, they have to take care of themselves, because I need them, and definitely the city needs them. Chiefs, inspectors, captains, lieutenants, and sergeants began taking responsibility for crime in a way they never really had before. And we crushed crime in New York City, and we continue to do it. The next 5 years after CompStat was instituted saw the biggest drop in crime in New York City's history by a very wide margin. And crime did not resume an upward course after the steep drops. It continued a steady decline. In the years since, CompStat has effectively managed crime. Today, of course, we are in a wholly new statistical range. There's a new normal. A lot of people weren't here 20 years ago in this city. Overall crime is down 76% since 1993. Murders, shootings, robberies, burglaries, and auto theft are all down by 80% or more. And in 2016, and this is the story I think that everybody needs to know in this city. In 2016, we achieved historic lows again across many crime categories, including the lowest number of shootings in the history of our city, 998. That's the first time it's ever been below 1,100. And to be able to do that, CompStat started in '94, and to do some early morning math, I think that's 22 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, John? You're the smart guy in the room. Yeah, go with 22 years. And to think after 22 years we could push down shootings in 1 year over 12% is an amazing accomplishment. And as street stops plummeted from a high of nearly 700,000 in 2011 to about 13,000 last year, we also made fewer arrests and issued fewer summonses, while overall crime here continued to go down. Because now we've taken enforcement action, we're looking at the right people. The number of gun arrests we made last year, 3,520 of them, is 10.5% higher than a year before. What does all of our success mean? It means that achieving further declines in overall crime is getting more and more difficult with each passing year. But we have that moral obligation to keep pushing crime down, and I know we can do it. That's one of the reasons for the major changes we're now undergoing in the NYPD. We still swear by CompStat as the core of our crime fighting and accountability model. It's the way we build future leadership. But with neighborhood policing, we're expanding the reach of CompStat's crime fighting and accountability to rank and file cops. Despite the upward trends we've seen elsewhere in the nation recently, the NYPD is intent on continuing to push crime down. And we know that further declines in crime are only going to be achieved through close partnerships with individual neighborhoods and all residents and workers within them. We also know that only cops on the street empowered by neighborhood policing can build those alliances effectively. Prior to neighborhood policing, community relations and crime fighting were there's kind of a dichotomy there. It doesn't have to be, and it can't be. Community relations has to be done by the people actually doing the job. Prior to neighborhood policing, it was the precinct commander, the 2 or 3 people from community affairs, all of Joanne Jaffe's fine people from the Community Affairs Bureau that did that work. But for this to really work, it's got to be everyone. Because no one knows better what's happening on a given block than the people who live and work there every day. They know who's selling the drugs in the stairwell, who's firing the guns on the rooftop, and they know who's preparing to feud with a rival gang. And we need that information. Make no mistake, this is a crime-fighting model of policing first and foremost. We have a lot to lose here. If we're going to change the way we do business, we have to make sure we do it right. It's our obligation, and it's what we want to do. That's why we took these jobs, each and every one of us. But we can't do it alone. Public safety is a shared responsibility, and we need everyone's help. This isn't about shaking hands and checking off a box on a monthly activity sheet. This is a complete paradigm shift in how we're protecting our city. And it's not just residents and local workers we want to reach, it's you here today. The business community, represented by the Police Foundation, can help bring about positive change. It can alter the public's perception of their police, and you can help us rebuild trust, because trust is how we move forward. The Foundation and the NYPD will soon be looking to you to help get our message out, and I hope you continue your strong history of support and assistance. Nationally, with all that's going on, cops and community must get on the same page. You already know New Yorkers can handle anything they put their minds to, and we can do this. And with your help, we're finding our way forward with neighborhood policing. This is a new way of doing business at the NYPD. The book each of you received this morning, the Police Commissioner's Report for 2017, has a far more complete picture of what's going on in the city than I can actually describe to you today. It details this new way of policing and highlights real-world examples from each of our 8 patrol boroughs. This report is unlike anything the NYPD has published before. It's designed to give you a sense of just how involved our police officers are in the daily lives of all New Yorkers. Well before neighborhood policing, our cops already cared about people in the neighborhoods they served, without a doubt. And we didn't give them the time or the opportunity to establish the lasting connections to take their police work to a higher level. Now we've formed a new position, the Neighborhood Coordination Officer. NCOs are connections between those who live and work in the community and teams of officers we called steady sector cops. Sector officers are permanently assigned to patrol the same geographical areas on the same shifts every single day. And that doesn't seem like rocket science, but it really hasn't been done before. And we resected these neighborhood policing commands. We're up and running 35 of them now. You know, before that, I used the 4-4 as an example. We'd have 18 sectors and 1.9 square miles with 150,000 people. And those lines are kind of arbitrarily drawn. So now we resected these neighborhood policing commands into natural neighborhoods. So now there's 5 sectors up in the 4-4, and there's there's 2 NCOs and 12 sector cops that are responsible for that geography. It's like a mini precinct. And we push that responsibility down to them, to that decision-making, that problem-solving, working in conjunction with the community. And that's another way we build leadership in the NYPD. And probably the most important part about what they're doing is they're afforded about 1/3 of their workday away from the stream of 911 and 311 calls on the radio in order to meet and interact with the people who live and work there. And in busy precincts, even in not-so-busy precincts, if you only put out 2 or 3 sector cars, one car can handle, believe it or not, 20 to 25 radio runs per 8.5 hours. And we're in that model. Do you have any time to speak to anyone except the people calling 911 and 311? Together, NCOs, sector cops, and the officers in response cars who are covering some of the dispatched 911 calls are the ones who take it most personally when they see graffitis on the side of school, when they see graffiti on the side of schools, gang and crew markings on the street signs, and people drinking alcohol or dealing drugs in the local parks. Because these are your streets and this is our city. 25 of our NCOs and NCO sergeants are here with us this morning. I'm going to do something that I'm sure they don't want, and that's recognition. So if they could all stand to be recognized, and we give them a round of applause. Thank you for what you do every day, putting that uniform on, going out and doing what you took that oath to do, to protect the people of this great city. And thank you for helping write NYPD history as you lead the law enforcement profession into a new chapter. Everything we do now is geared toward reducing crime and keeping people safe, everything. The neighborhood policing model is already operating in more than half of our precincts, as I said, and in every one of our commands that cover public housing. And we'll be expanding it to 10 more over the next 4 months. The NYPD's new patrol model is much more than just a traditional answering of 911 after 911 call. It's about deeper problem solving. And it's tailor-made policing that's individualized for whatever neighborhood you're in. And certainly not every neighborhood in New York City is the same. And neighborhood policing is not just about making meaningful connections with those who live and work in every corner of New York City. It's about each of us helping take criminals off the streets and preventing crimes before they occur. Assisting us in this task are the 800 or so volunteers we've already signed up as part of our community partner program organized by the Foundation. More than 24 partners are here with us this morning, too, so please stand and be recognized for your efforts. Thank you. Community partners. Thank you for taking the time to join us and supporting this important work. You're the definition of what we're talking about when we talk about public safety being a shared responsibility. You help us every day in so many ways, from showing and introducing our newest cops around the neighborhoods they'll be patrolling, to gathering up other civic-minded residents and workers in your communities so that they, like you, can work hand in hand with us in our mission to further reduce crime and to keep people safe. To achieve true public safety, we need everyone's help. As always, our biggest partner is the Police Foundation, which has helped create a neighborhood policing fund that helps engage the public in multiple ways. That's important because we know we can't achieve our goals if we lack trust from those who live and work in our city. Community engagement and crime fighting go together. There's not that dichotomy. And over the years, those things have been separated. Now that we have the opportunity and the ability to reconnect the two and to strengthen everything we do, every one of us in this room shares this responsibility, and every person in this city shares that responsibility. That's why we've redefined what it means to be a police officer in this great city. That's why we're completely shifted the way we protect New York. And that's why we restructured how the NYPD is organized internally. We now have almost all of our detectives reporting up to the same chain of command. It's called our unified investigation model and encompasses traditional precinct detective squad work, plus narcotics, vice, warrants, and the 200 or so investigators assigned to our gun violence suppression division. And they work for, by far, the best chief of detectives that I've ever met, Bob Boyce. So Bob, thanks for everything you do every day. Under this new way of doing things, last year we conducted about 90 targeted takedowns, long-term and medium-term investigations into gang and crew violence, drug dealing, and other criminal activities. And we locked up over 1,000 people in those takedowns. These are the people that are involved in the violence and the crime. This is why shootings and homicides and overall crime continues to go down. That kind of precision policing is how we're zeroing in on a relatively small population of the people in the city involved in that crime. Our 5 DAs, plus the Eastern and Southern districts of New York, truly are our partners in this fight, and together we're winning. Along with our federal partners, the FBI has been a tremendous help on both fronts, counterterrorism and traditional crime, the U.S. Marshal Service, the DEA, the ATF. I don't think we've ever gotten along better. I think that everybody in this room probably knows about the Chelsea bombing and how we collaborated with the FBI, with the fire department, with the state police and the ATF to solve that quickly. And it was done. It was actually an amazing feat. I think we ID'd them within 35 hours, and the police officers in Linden, New Jersey, locked them up in 50 hours. So a terrific job. And together we truly are winning. Many of these repeat offenders are getting longer and more meaningful sentences because we're focusing on the people committing the crimes. And that's how we're keeping New York safe year after year. And again, none of this is happening by accident. It's a lot of hours, it's a lot of sacrifice. And all of it is geared towards supporting our neighborhood policing plan. We've also added another facet to our policing model. After each of the takedowns we conduct, we go back into the affected communities, the neighborhoods, and the housing developments that were terrorized by drug dealers and people shooting guns, and we hold debriefings for those who live and work there so that they can ask questions about who we arrested and why. And beginning this year, we're looking to start live streaming these meetings on Facebook so people who can't make them can still take part, so the rest of the world can see how we're reclaiming our city together. The feedback we get from those residents and workers is overwhelmingly positive. Sometimes they do push a little bit and ask us why we waited so long. They tell us we got the right people, and they say thank you, something police officers generally don't hear enough of, in my opinion. A few years ago, other things were lacking too. Our officers didn't have phones or even email addresses, believe it or not. Now every NYPD cop has a department-issued smartphone, and all patrol vehicles are equipped with tablets. Officers have real-time crime data at their fingertips and use that technology every day. And now, via these phones and email addresses, they're in direct contact with community members and, just as importantly, with each other. Day shift and night shift officers from the same sectors are instantaneously sharing intelligence about emerging problems across the secure communications network, thanks to Jesse. With all the talk about our newest initiatives, let me remind you that the daily work of the NYPD, counterterrorism and traditional crime fighting, continues around the clock in all 5 boroughs. We now have about 1,600 expertly trained officers who supplement our elite emergency services unit. Those assigned to our CRC, and I'm sure you see them, Critical Response Command, are tasked with protecting sites and infrastructure around the city. They also have the ability to respond to active shooters and, God forbid, a terrorist event. And those in our strategic response group also have quick access to long guns should they need to rapidly respond to any emerging threat, including an active shooter situation or other terror incident. They are informed, of course, by our first-rate intelligence bureau. John Miller actually wrote that line. Our intelligence bureau and counterterrorism bureau are industry leaders in detecting, deciphering, and responding to an ever-changing threat stream of information. Supporting these efforts in a way that is unique to the NYPD and second to none anywhere else in the world is our International Liaison Program, funded by the Police Foundation through many of you in this room today. Thank you for your ongoing support in this effort. Due to your help, the NYPD has more than a dozen detectives embedded with police agencies and cities across the globe, ready to quickly and accurately share information with our local, state, federal, international law enforcement partners. The beauty of this program that anything that happens anywhere in the country and anywhere in the world, we get real-time information back so we can rapidly deploy our resources within the city to keep everybody safe. It's an invaluable tool that enables our cops here to more quickly understand and react to situations unfolding elsewhere. Because everything that happens in other countries and other cities directly affects all New Yorkers. And all New Yorkers is what this is all about. We want all New Yorkers to feel they have a stake in our collective public safety. And today I'm inviting all New Yorkers to share responsibility for the safety of your city. Our vision of neighborhood policing, officers protecting individual neighborhoods with the help of a fully engaged community, is here. Join us as we take New York City into an even greater future. Thank you for your attention this morning.